The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. Whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wishes to be the first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated, if we are not flexible. Once upon a time, there was a little girl whose mother died and her father remarried, and then she had to become a servant. She bore it well, but obviously it was very unfair that this had happened to her, losing her mother and then losing her status and position in the family. So fortunately, her fairy godmother showed up and turned her into an almost princess for just long enough for her to meet a prince. And then she became and after some confusion, they got married, and then she became a real princess and was able to kiss the servant like goodbye. Thank God. Only on British PBS shows do people enjoy being servants, and then only some of them. So in that regard, I am not sure which story is more of a fantasy, Cinderella or Downton Abbey. Servanthood is not something that most people aspire to. We want to be transformed into something spectacular. We want to be elevated to a place of importance. We want to share in the glory of being on the winning team. But here comes Jesus this week reminding us that as his followers, servanthood is our actual calling. Servanthood. Not becoming lords and ladies and princes and princesses. Rats. Jesus tried to tell his disciples that they will be free if they are not weighed down by possessions, if they are not striving to get to the top or stay at the top, that God will give them what they need, so they don't have to grasp and grab and grip so tightly. They will be free to use their resources to help others as they follow Jesus on the way. Jesus' ideas are radical. They were then and they are now. That it is by giving up that stuff and instead living life in service to others that we will be fulfilled. It's sad how the disciples continually fail to misunderstand Jesus. They fail to understand Jesus, but then Jesus just wasn't what anyone was expecting. He turned things upside down all the time, which indeed was good news for those who were marginalized, poor, broken, outcast. But most of us are not really in those categories. And we want Jesus to be about us. So what do we do? when he talks like this? Try to follow, of course. Even if we fail, we try to follow. Perhaps it would be helpful to talk about servant ministry a little here and what that might mean in our context, in our time and place, in the life of All Saints Parish in Richmond, Virginia. The word that keeps coming to me these days is mutuality. Unlike the story in Cinderella, the kind of servanthood Jesus talks about is shared ministry, mutual ministry, not just one person cleaning up after another, although sometimes that does end up how things go. Shared mutual ministry is certainly what we do as a church together. All of us and all of what we do here on Sundays, as well as on Mondays and Saturdays and all days, all of us do shared ministry. That's what we do as a church. We are serving one another with our contributions, be they monetary contributions or gifts of time and talent, in order to build up and strengthen our community, both our church community and the larger community around us. One of us doesn't sit back while the other does all the work. We do it together. We each have our role, our part to play. That's mutual ministry. So this is a good time to consider as we try once again to look ahead to coming out of a time of deprivation and isolation, how we might each become more engaged, become re-engaged in the work of this parish. All of the things that we do here depend on each other's gifts and work. When we get together on Sunday morning, it is a mutual effort. It is mutual ministry. Some prepare the flowers, others prepare the altar, and some offer their musical gifts, while others read the lessons, and still others greet and shepherd us through our movements. And you know what? We need more folks to join in that effort. When we gather on Wednesday for our healing service, we need more folks to join in that effort. And when we gather with our youth and our children, and when we care for those who are homebound, we need more folks to join in that effort. And when we reach out to the community in love and service, we need more folks to join in that effort. That is how we are to be the church, to minister together, to be the church. I know that many of you are experiencing grief right now. There's the general grief about the state of the world these days, and there is grief about how All Saints is not what it used to be. We're coming to grips with some realities that are hard. How folks have left, how folks may not come back, how many losses there have been, and the attendant downsizing of our budget, our programs, and our staff. The grief is real and should be acknowledged and felt deeply. And it is also true that we have an opportunity now to be more mutual in our work, in our ministry. All of us have a ministry, or more than one ministry, and each of us needs to discern what our ministry is or what our ministries are, and to step forward in faith to offer that ministry in company with others. We don't need a large staff to accomplish great things, because it is our combined effort, our mutual ministry, that is the engine that powers our work. The work of the church does not need to get smaller. It needs to get more collaborative. It needs to be mutual. So this is my charge to you today. As a follower of Jesus who is called to serve, What is your ministry in this place and this time? And how can you step forward and offer it to and with this community? Will you come and be part of our work days? Will you sign on to become a reader or an usher or to join the altar guild or our AV team? Will you join our outreach leaders to discern and carry out our mission to the community? How will you become re-engaged here in order to live out your baptismal vows and exercise your ministry? How will you become a servant of Jesus? He's waiting for you to follow him.